We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Legacy Partners and Leverage, the magical arts of positive motivation and manipulation. And today we're going to take a break from the lessons and just have a conversation. This is backstage, passes here, and so there's a challenge that I'm having in the delivery of all the material. And it's something that I've had a lot of challenges with over the years. And so, David, good to have you on. Could you share with everybody what you shared with me? Because I think that Tom and Peter would be good for them to hear it, and I think that they would have some solutions. And I think that maybe, the whole community can go ahead and maybe give some input as we kind of struggle through this process. So could you share with everyone what you shared with me yesterday? And be transparent. It's fine. We're all family here. It's not a big deal.
I understand. Thank you, Mark. As we were talking yesterday, I just explained to you, of course, I'm squeezing this in. I hate to say it that way, but I've got quite a bit going on, and but I want to make it a priority. And I've worked with you in the past on some similar projects, not Leverage, but just some of your other works that you've got. And I've always found it a little deeper than I typically evaluate things. I am a kind of a macro view guy, don't do a lot of the minutia, and so I find it hard to sit still long enough to really dig deep into your product. And part of it is because I'm not giving it the time I should, So I'll admit to that part. That's my part, my bad. But it is just, extra confusing, I guess, or just overwhelming maybe is the better word when you're trying to do it in a hurry. So I did get your white paper again yesterday and the opportunity to rewrite it from a real estate perspective. And so I've got to carve some time out, and get on that. And then I was just telling Emily right before the call started that I've got a few things I need to get back with her on just in general with the Leverage program itself. But as you reminded me yesterday, just by having the opportunity to kind of be the first real estate broker, other than Tom, obviously, that's one of the principals here. But, I get to take advantage of this leverage if I will stick with it and follow through. And that's certainly something that I do want out of this program. I joined it because it's the first time in several years that I've been back on the ground listing and selling and not in some corporate management position for, a real estate firm. So I'm having to rebrand myself, let people know that I haven't retired. I've got lots of things going on, and then obviously I have a really nice recruiting opportunity right now, and I need to leverage that and take advantage of that. So hopefully I've answered your question without babbling too much.
So, Tom, how have you dealt with the complexities in dealing with me?
Listen a lot and scan a lot. So it's like you don't need to read every single thing. You just need to kind of scan through, and at least from my perspective, and kind of pick up on let me back up. First of all, you and I were on the phone a lot, almost every day. And so I picked up a lot from just listening to what you had to say. And then I looked at all of the diagrams and all of the models that you have, and then thirdly I go to the written word to pick up anything that I may have missed from whatever Mark said and whatever I picked up out of the diagrams. But if you really look at the pictures or the diagrams, for the most part, they're somewhat self-explanatory, at least from my perspective. And being a realtor, you're probably more visual than anything else anyway. So, yeah, that would be my input.
So, and that's kind of what I told Mark yesterday. I do then kind of speed read or scan, most of his copy, and I do look at pictures. I am a visual guy, so I appreciate that, Tom. Thank you.
So, Peter, you and I have known each other a lot less time, so just, not even a year. So I guess I don't think that you and Tom, maybe, I could be wrong, but I don't think you and Tom realize how very different you are from normal people. Would that be fair to say, Peter, or not?
I'm not sure whether it's fair to say or not. I think we're all different. So, but I do understand David's point with, it's making the complex simple, and how do you make that work for you? So, yeah, look, I know in the discussions you and I have had, I'm always amazed at the detail, and I think I've said to you many times, the way I deal with that, David, is, relating it back to the foundation, and for that I always look at that bullseye, because the way things work, in my experience, are actually quite simple at their root, at their foundation. It just seems complicated because there's so many variables in business and people. So I always reference back when I have discussions with Mark, and we have these conversations, back to the schematic of ask questions, our intentions, our capabilities, present solutions, and keep joining the dots back to that foundation. And then how do I make that work in my current situation?
Thank you.
Ski, you and I have known each other for 30 years, I think it's been. And so do you have any insights in, there's a part of me that does not think I ought to be one of the three, for sure.
Well, why? Yeah.
We're all different, like Peter says, but I'm really, really different. I'm way off the different scale. And so, when I come up with this, I wake up in the morning, and all of a sudden this is in my head. And I get out of bed and I write it down on a napkin. I'm like, oh, here's this model. When Peter goes ahead and says, Mark, I think it ought to go deeper, I'm like, okay, he's right. Okay, he's right. And then all of a sudden I go ahead and develop, this that's on the screen. And it's like I can visually see all the depth. I can see one layer and then another layer and then another layer, but then all of a sudden, if they think what they're seeing is complicated, oh my gracious, there's a million things underneath it, and it's I want to give everything to everybody, and I want it to all happen, in I want it to all happen in 7 weeks. So it's like Tom, I gunk up the system.
That's true. But what I would tell you is, if I'm thinking of the sales process in BMW Group from wholesale to retail, there's what's called a storybook, and it's a journey from one end of the spectrum to the other to walk a 15,000 individual sales force through, leveraging effectively all the tools and essentially that schematic that you've produced with the bullseye. It's just it's how each individual creates those milestones on whether it's a road to the sale, a road and a path to fulfilling your purpose, a road and a path to getting the capital that you need to start a business. So there's lots of different roads for different reasons. And it starts with the questions, whether it's the data you need, the people you need to recruit, how you ask the right questions to get the right people, doing the right things, and so on. So that's why I always refer to that bullseye chart as a foundational tool. I think, Mike, you have an enormous amount of detail when it comes to the glue between those milestones, which can make it overwhelming, confusing. And so when I say go deeper, what I'm looking for is the milestones along the path. And I think for individuals, it's kind of making it relevant to them at that point. So you can't necessarily fill in all those nodules, but it's the framework for how you manage that journey.
Ski, thoughts you have, questions, insights?
Yeah, Mark, and I can relate to what David had said, and I know we've talked about this in the past. And the best way I could think of it is somebody that's going into nuclear science doesn't start there. They start off somewhere in school, a younger age, where they get into science and they start to develop a love for that, and gradually, as they mature in the process, they start to take more on. If you give somebody something that is so complex, and I've talked to other people about this, their eyes roll back, and I think Peter's right. Everybody's a little bit different, but if you can boil it down to the most elemental, simple concepts in the beginning when you start, because again, I'm starting off with Science 101, and I'm going to graduate onto that because I see the benefit. It solves the problem. You kind of rub a nerve because I sense that, yes, I understand how this fits in for me. I see the value, but take me slowly through this. And again, different people will be able to go through that at different speeds. But once again, it will go back to what's the common denominator? What is it that makes this so simple to understand when you see it? And then what's the progression beyond it? I also agree with Peter about finding the right people to be able to help with delivering the message. And again, different stages, simple, expand, a little more deeply into it. And you are what amazing mind you have. So when you dump some of these things on people, it becomes overwhelming for them. And sometimes it's just a matter of stepping back and asking the question, like, well, how can I make this simpler? How can I start at a slightly lower level so that more people grasp it and see that can connect to their needs? I don't know if that makes sense.
I'm tracking. I follow. It's like, oh yeah, I get that. So intellectually, I get it in a course because there's going to be 25,000 people going through this course, and so in the delivery of it, that's the thing. Like this is what Tom, like when Tom went ahead and first saw the 530 grid, he saw something in the 530 grid I didn't see. And he told me that. He said, like the first time he saw it, I don't know, it was like a year and a half into knowing each other. I said, oh, take a look at this. And he looked at it and he says, oh my gracious, do you know what you have here? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I don't think you do. I'm like, I think so. He said, this is like the holy grail, Mark, for business. Like a kid with a lemonade stand can understand this, and all the way up to a CEO of a Fortune 100 company and everything in between. He's like, you've discovered the holy grail for business. I'm like, cool. And so Tom gets it. Like he gets the simplicity of it And then he gets the complexity of it, and he gets that I still am confused. It seems like Tom does not recognize how spectacular of a mind he has. And so Tom said that if you don't understand, if you can't give away to somebody else something you first don't have yourself. So if Tom doesn't recognize, which again I'm not sure if he does or doesn't, I can't imagine how somebody could have Tom's mind and not recognize the brilliance of it. Like, I don't understand it. But maybe it is. So if Tom doesn't understand the brilliance of his own mind, he can't give that brilliance to somebody else. So like this whole course is all about box 8. I mean, one box in the whole 530, like every one of these boxes are magical. It's like going into a whole new kingdom of beauty and wonder. And so, like David said, my biggest challenge is time, and I just want to shake David. I'm like, David, that's why we covered leverage of time. Like that's what we covered on the leverage. So lesson 2 is, do you leverage time? Because I know that that's the biggest challenge for people getting out. Like, it was funny because I said, David, what do you want from this course? And he said, I'm not sure. I said, I know what you want. So what company are you with, David?
EXP Realty.
Okay. So that one of the founders of EXP is, I guess, was with Keller Williams, and so it's like Keller Williams, but different. And
Mark, can I say something?
Uh-huh.
It's interesting because EXP is more of a, this is a very futuristic company.
Correct.
And everything is avatars and things of that sort, correct?
In our world, obviously the public doesn't see that.
Yeah, but the organization as a whole is basically all online and all in 3D.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's interesting that, I would think you would pick up, knowing that, I would think you would pick up the stuff that Mark has faster than any of us.
It's not that I don't pick it up. It is that I'm not giving it a fair amount of time. I've just got to block some time specifically to dig in a little deeper. Because I worked with Mark in the past, Tom. You and I have talked before, but and it was the same thing then. I wasn't giving it my attention.
See, that's where, to leverage time, the secret about time, the 10 lessons that are on average 6 minutes each, like that is the secret. And when Tom hit my world, everything changed. I had worked decades to try to, catch, a 3-pound trout. And then I meet Tom, and Tom's makes one phone call, and I'm on the, phone talking every week with the president of Easter Seals worldwide. Like one phone call on my behalf from Tom, and I'm talking to a worldwide leader every week.
Well, that's only because we raised $100 million for him, so. It had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with Greenback.
That'll do it.
And then one email, and I'm talking to the president or past president. He's kind of in between of Coldwell Banker. My whole world changed, and I'm like, oh my gracious! Like I'm this little kid with this little pole, and Tom's giving me a whale. And I'm like, how am I going to handle all this? And that's when the secret of time was discovered. like I have an extra 20 hours of free time a week. I take 1 week off every month. I mean, it's like I found the secret of time, and I can give that secret to other people. And it's like if people don't receive that secret, they're going to have a hard time getting everything that they could from leverage. It's too powerful. It's too big of an engine, almost. Anybody else have any thoughts or questions or insights or anything?
Mark, this
Yeah.
is Ski. What would you say precedes the leverage information?
Like a prerequisite class?
Yeah, or just mindset. It could be prerequisites class, but just what's the situation? What precedes it?
Okay. It's okay for me to be socially autistic?
Go for it.
Okay, so if you guys don't, for those like Tom, he also said, you know, Mark, you're interesting in that, like, I've never seen anybody that's so intentional and so careful with people. What's interesting is you'll vaporize the person, but they're fine with it, but you got to, like, the people around you, they're the around, like, it's not the person who's asking the question, it's somebody else that gets hurt. So for me, going into this, for me, Ski, is it's like, Mark, you're an idiot. You know nothing. You're just, like, you have to throw out everything you think you know about everything, and you've got to come in with an open mind, open heart, and you're just an idiot. Like, everything you think you know, you don't. So for me, it's like emptying of myself and going to be childlike, like Alan Stein's book, you know, How to Be the Best Student in the World and Everything, where he co-authored the book with three kids that were 5 and under. Like, what a cool book. How to Be the Best Student in the World. And so if you're not, like, that's where Tom, like, I've never met anybody in my life that's a student like Tom. It's insane. I mean, he can learn.
You give me more credit than I'm due.
I don't know. It's just, I call it like I see it. It just, like I seen, like, Tom gets stuff that other people don't get. Like Tom and I, we work our butt off, and we have nobody shows up besides Tom and I. Like, most people are like all upset. Tom's like, cool, just you and I. I mean, it doesn't matter what situation. It doesn't matter who's in the room. It doesn't, like, he's, you know, it's like it doesn't matter their education. It doesn't matter their knowledge. It doesn't matter their age, gender, demographic. Like, it doesn't matter who it is. Everywhere Tom goes, there's like all these flowers that pop up around him of all this magical things that happen. And it's like, how do I capture that? And how do I transplant that genetically to other people? Because if they could just see the world as Tom would see the world, then it'd be magical for all of us.
I think you answered the question in that really the prerequisite is thinking differently. If you can start to see things differently, then leverage becomes much more, you see leverage as a much more powerful tool, and then start to see it in your life and where you can apply it.
Right. See, I'm really excited because, you know, Lee, I just love her. Like, unbelievable. Like, it was almost instant connection. So I love that she can handle my energy. You know, she just accepts me for who I am, and she's like, you know, Mark's, he's a little off, but I love him anyways. And then she just tells me the truth. So she's like, I read it. You know, Jill, she read it, and she was going to invest the money into going to an event, and she said, no, rather than going to an event, I'm going to participate in leverage. And she just read the white paper. I'm like, that's a magical white paper. That's awesome. Lee, it didn't create magic for Lee, and her husband, I like him even more. Well, maybe not. I like them both a lot. But I love that he was honest, and he's like, and I love that Lee was honest, and it's like he read it, and it didn't do anything for him. He just put it down. Yeah, I wouldn't sign up. Like, oh, that's awesome. Like, that is so awesome. Thank you, Lee. Hug. Like, oh, that's so cool. So then I call David up, and he's like, you know, Mark, this is reminding me of past experiences. Not bad, just is. And so I'm like, and that's when it, like, okay, we need to have separate, like, we need to have one 7-week course that everybody goes through. But then there needs to be specialized courses like one for real estate that David's like, yeah, I'll go ahead and rewrite the white paper. Go knock yourself out. I don't care. Do anything you want. And then Ski says, yeah, I'll do that for the mortgage. And then Jen says, you know, I'll do that for CPAs. And then Matt says, I'll do that for technology. So it's like I want the 7-week course to be magical. Like, I want it to be where a child can participate and just be like, oh, I get it. And I want a CEO of a Fortune 100 company to participate and go, I have no idea what he said, and I loved it. Like, what in the world are they talking about? And then to go ahead and go into separate groups and talk about how does leverage apply to real estate? How does it apply to mortgages? How does it apply to IT? How does it apply to, you know, the car business, automotive industry? How does it apply to MLM? How does it apply to family? How does it apply to nonprofits? So, Tom, I know you got to run here. Anything, any other thoughts or input or suggestions or ideas that you have?
No, none at this point.
So, can you help me figure out, Tom, on how you're such a good student? Please?
I don't know that I am. I guess it's just the things that you present and do and say, and I mean, it all started, with the 530 grid and the personality mastery, and those are just intriguing things to me because it helps. First of all, it helps me understand who I am. The personality application helped me understand why I think the way I think, and more importantly, how can I communicate better with the people that I need to communicate to. And by the way, that's a very powerful program for anybody in real estate, if you're a salesperson. And the 530 grid was it was there. I mean, it was. I was talking with a guy yesterday about it, and a real estate guy, and now he's going to implement or try to implement in real estate those the 5 fundamental things on the left-hand side, because they're losing so many. We get so many leads in real estate, and I believe wholeheartedly that we walk away from more business than, I don't care, any agent, any company. I think we walk away from more leads than we actually do business with, because we're just looking at the A lead, not incubating them. And so those were just fundamental things that popped out.
Cool.
I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's pretty simple.
So, Elise or Emily will get over to you the ebook, Tom, How to Be the Best Student in the World, by Alan. And my grandson, Danny, when he was 3 or 4, he was a co-author of it. Like, that's really cool. But anyways, there's something not working in that book. And so if you could, take a glance through it and see if you can find out what's missing. It's people say, "Oh, that's a nice book. I get it," and it's like, no, you don't get it. Like if you read that book and you don't say, "I am the worst student in the world," if you don't see that, if that's not the conclusion you get, the book didn't work. So we'll get that over to you. If anyone else has to take off, we're going to take a 5-second pause and go into the bonus session here. Thanks so much, Tom.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, here's our 5-second pause.
Thanks, Tom.
We'd like to welcome each and every individual to the bonus session. Hi, my name is Mark Boersma of Leverage. And Peter, your thoughts, insights?
It's always fascinating to me, I guess, the depth of your thoughts. And as I said earlier, I think the key always for me is to take the information, what I'm hearing from anybody contributing, and try and figure out where it fits into the actions that you need to take with the time that you have available to you, that you create. And to that extent, it's kind of a puzzle, even in resolving how you present this to make it the most attractive proposition to the individuals that you're trying to bring into the course. And I think a lot of it is about designing a framework, a process that people can leverage to their personal situation. And I'm constantly trying to bring the information and the fruits of the various discussions into an order for which it makes sense to me, too.
See, and this is what... Go ahead.
And to make it fit retrospectively back into what I've done over the last 30 years and think, yeah, I kind of did, that's what I did and how I did it, but how could I have made it better, knowing some of the things that I'm hearing even in these discussions in the future.
See, I saw that with Tom, too. Like, after he retired from Century 21, he went ahead and he said, I wish I would have seen Personality Masteries, years ago, because I'd have required it for the 140,000 agents. Life Masteries wishes that, too. And
I think the difference is, in that sense, I'm taking a lot of the complexity, or a lot of the information that you share, or the thoughts, and I'm slotting it into what I know as my basic framework for what I've accomplished over 35 years, right? So I'm sort of taking the pieces and molding them into what I consider my process for dealing with the future path, various paths and businesses that I'm involved with. And so to me, kind of what's missing that makes it clearer for people is that framework process. So I take a lot, but I think a lot of this, the information, the discussions, the questions that people ask, and the answers, and the thoughts, and I'm constantly trying to slot it into what I know is my basic process to make it better.
So do you know, Peter, how totally unusual what you just shared is? Almost nobody on the planet does that?
Well, what I would tell you is they may not do it deliberately, because I would say 15, 20, 30 years ago, I wasn't following a roadmap. I was just following learned behavior, basic principles, right? So, and I think that's what people do, and those that have those basic principles, values ground into them in their early years, a lot of that enables them to be successful, and often they just don't stop and think what it was that got them as far as they've come. But on my journey, people would ask me often, because I was quite young when I got on the first public company board. I was 40, I beg your pardon, I was 37 years old when I got on the board of Land Rover of North America. And people would ask me when I was traveling, my God, how did you do that in such a short time? And I used to wonder, how the heck did I do it? So I started going back in my mind and thinking, what was it? And I'd ask people sometimes that had promoted me and given me opportunities, what did you think? Right? And the answer often was the curiosity, and if somebody threw something at you, you fixed it. And these were often small, but many times huge, multi-million-dollar, sometimes billion-dollar problems. And so I started creating a process or system that worked for me based on that, but it didn't come in the beginning. And I think that's what a lot of successful people have done until you stop and think about, well, how do I systematize that? And what you've done is you've created a science behind, leading a more productive, I'll call it purpose-driven life, with a huge amount of elements in it. And you've got a lot of modules on that 530 grid. And it's sort of taking how do you get from the 40,000 foot view where it's simple and makes sense? And then as you go down into each one, see how they're interlinked and the order in which they can be used simultaneously, concurrently, or whatsoever, so that people can see how to take advantage of it and create leverage from it for themselves.
So, this is what I wish. The course is going to be insane. But what I wish is that, the whole world could see the magic of what's going on backstage. That's the thing I wish for. And so
I think that's where a lot of the searching as to how you create leverage. I agree with you. It's the searching that's going on as to how you create leverage for more people, and anybody participating, how they also refine for themselves. Knowing that it's not that you always have the answers already. That's why we're going through this process and talking about creating a course to do it. It's having the mindset where you're willing to listen and then try and leverage what you're hearing, but also ask questions in order to make it relevant to you so that you'll act on it. And that's basically, I think, what Tom does. That's what I've done. But you just recognize it more when you're having these discussions.
So with Peter, he said, "Hey, Mark, I think you can drill deeper." And I'm like, "Oh my gracious, he's ready to go deeper." So, asking questions. This is not brain surgery. It's not rocket science. So it's asking questions. Okay, well, what are the two things you need for the sale, or two things you need for leverage? You need intention and capabilities. That's it. That's it. People want to know what is your intention. Once they know what your intention is, then they want to know, do you have the capability to do it? So again, this, ask questions. That's a child knows how to do that. They don't have, there's research. Maybe one of you could find it. Somebody told me, I think the average child, 2, 3 years old, they're asking 600 questions a day or something. It's asking questions. It's simple. Intention and capability, that's simple too. So you're going from 1 feet of water into 2 feet. And then all of a sudden, okay. Well, there's 4 levels of questions. And the analytic is very detailed in what it is. And then and then there's a connection. And then there's caring, the amiable naturally. So the analytic has 1 million questions. They're naturally good at it. The amiable is naturally good at caring. The expressive is naturally good at making it fun and exciting and curious. And the driver is really good at the big picture. What do we want? Like, let's not lose track. Let's not lose focus. This is what we want. And so, Ski was planning on taking Personality Mastery's course, and so he asked me, he said, should I take that or should I take Leverage? And I'm like, take Leverage, for sure. Why? Because it's live. like it's live. You can actually interact. Like, you can actually, oh my gracious, there is so much work that's gone into this course, and there's so much work that's being put into this course. It's insane. And so every one of these boxes can be exploded out like this, and it takes me probably, an hour to do. And it's just, it's a reflex to me. It's like, okay, you just drill down to the next layer, and then you drill down to the next layer after that. The challenge is people don't want it. They want more income. They want more free time. They want more success. But they don't want to do the work to go down to the next layer of the onion, and that takes more work. Well, I don't want to do it. Well, then you're not going to get your income. But there's so many programs out there. There's so many programs out there that say you don't have to work, and I'll take you to another dimension. And they won't. They won't take you to. All they'll do is just go ahead and, they'll seduce you.
Yeah, when in my younger years, I would work, 80 hours a week. And if I had 5 different departments reporting to me and 12 direct reports or something, if you don't create a system for yourself that covers each of these quadrants, right, effectively, then you're going to continue to work 80 hours a week, kind of micromanage everything. If you want to turn that 80 hours into 40 hours, running a billion-dollar business with 12 direct reports, then if you get everybody effectively leveraging each one of these quadrants, you don't have to be on top of everything all the time. But you have to put that process, leveraging the quadrants, has to be designed for your business and your life. Somebody else can't do it for you because it requires some detail and effort to get it there. So you don't go from 80 to 40 in 5 days because you have to develop your own system for leveraging that fits within the business and your life. But the only way you get there is by having a process that becomes habitual, that delivers the results that you require.
Oh, by the way, just as a reminder, it's a half an hour. Anything beyond a half an hour is a gift from you to me to you, and us to one another. So don't think of this as an hour or whatever. Think of it as a half an hour. Because if people think of it as an hour, you're like, oh, I can't go ahead and go to that because I don't have an hour. No, it's a half an hour. And just have the discipline like Tom did. He jumped off. He jumped off. He had something else. Cool. So don't think of this as anything more. Only put in the time that you can, but put it in consistently. Like, don't take a week off. Or if you do, if you can't avoid it, then listen to the rebroadcast of it so you keep up. Because one lesson missed. Like, if people don't understand the secret about time, they're gonna struggle with the course. Nicole, what would you like to accomplish today?
So I kind of wanted to revisit my question from last week, but figuring out how to leverage an influential database, leveraging Tanglewood to raise money for our foundation.
Have you read the book Lean In?
I hadn't finished it. I started it.
Did you get to the point where a woman will tend to go ahead and sit off to the side?
Yeah,
Did you take that to heart?
I did.
Did you apply it today?
No.
Why not?
I didn't think about it. I don't know.
So, so you lose leverage when you do that. So you have to be able to interrupt. So just a while back, I realized how men are trained from little boys not to confront women. They're trained not to confront their mom, their sisters, their girlfriends, their wives, their daughters. Men you don't confront women. That doesn't work out well for women, especially in business, because confrontation is how you learn, but men will not tend to confront women. Women, I realized, they're taught from a young age, don't interrupt your dad. Don't interrupt. Women are taught, don't interrupt men. But you had something that you could have interrupted at the first half an hour. Like, you got to get in before Tom gets out.
Yeah.
And so you got to interrupt. You got to ask when Tom's on. I mean, when you raise $100 million, when you raise $100 million for an organization, that's pretty up there. So he'll know, I believe, he'll know how Tanglewood can properly approach their vast network of people for untangled minds. I believe Peter will have tremendous insight, but they both need to be there. You don't want to have input from one without the other, in my opinion. And so I don't know Peter nearly as well as I do Tom, but I know that he works with affluent people. And working with affluent people, it's dicey. There's so much that you have to know that you just, and so you have to bring that question up at least with 15 minutes for Tom and Peter to go ahead and give you input on that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Cool. Anything else you got?
The only thing I was curious about is when Tom was talking about in real estate, what was it, something like they don't pursue nearly as much of the leads as they do because they focus on the top.
Yep.
How is that beneficial than doing like what we do when we nurture them? Is it just faster?
See, what it is people don't realize, they don't understand the difference between a fisherman and a fishery. And so they don't understand it. So they don't understand, like, the natural laws. Like, if you look at the screen, the 4 Qs. Quantity of lead, quality of lead, quantity of effort, quality of effort. Like, you won't find this on the Internet. You won't find it in any book. You won't find it in any university course. You won't find it in an MBA. You won't find it anywhere. You just won't. So when the quantity of your leads go up, typically your quality of your lead goes down because you're getting further from your sphere of influence. If that wasn't bad, your quantity of your efforts will go down too. Why is that? Because based on university research, it takes 6 to 10 contacts to make a sale. Those same researchers found that the average salesperson only makes 1 to 2. So if it takes 10 contacts to make a sale, you make 9. You've done 90% of the work, and you're not going to make a dime on it. That's not good for business. If that wasn't bad, your quality of your efforts go down too. So what people do is people in business think that if the more leads you get, the more money you're going to make. If you double your leads, you're going to go ahead and double, your business. You won't. In most situations, your business could go down and your costs are going to go up. You'll lose money. They don't teach that in accounting. CPAs don't even know that. Like, this stuff is not anywhere. You can't find it. So if you have a lead that's an 8, which we all like in business, you only need skills or a system that are a 2. But there's not a lot of 8s out there in blue ocean strategies. It talks about red oceans is where everybody else is fishing. There's blood in the water. And so it's like, so you get a 4, a quality of a 4, well, you're not, you've got to take that fish back to the fishery and feed that fish. Well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I want to make money. Well, yes, but you got to spend, if you spend it and you raise them in a fishery, like, you won't find that anywhere in the world. Like, that's just one of over 500 things. There's a science behind all of it. People understand it, but they don't understand the science of it. And if you don't understand the science of it, you can't put a system in place. So what's happening is you get a 4, you get a quality of a lead that's a 4. Well, your front-end salespeople, they can't develop it. They're not good. They're not disciplined. It's not the role. What you need is technology or you need support team to be able to do all of that for you. And so that's where box 5, the strategic strike, comes in. But then how do you miracle grow the strategic strike? You go ahead and box 12 it. Well, what do you build the box 12 on? You build it on your box 13. Like, all of these things, this is what's so frustrating to me. I spent 28 years figuring this out. I have 3 degrees in business. They didn't teach me any of this stuff. MBA students, they don't know any of this stuff. They do not. They might specialize in 1 or 2 areas, but you don't get the leverage if you're not connecting all of the silos together, and they don't know how to do that well. And so people make things complex that are simple, and people make things simple that are complex, and that jams their systems, and it's just devastating.
Mm-hmm.
Jill, what would you like to accomplish?
Mark?
Yes.
Can I just, I'm sort of asking a question, but also concurring with what you just said. So I think, that you've just quickly summarized a lot of science behind leads. And I agree that nobody really teaches you that. But in the companies I've worked for, we had millions of leads, right? At some point, you've got to break it down to the channels where those leads are coming from. And I'm trying to do a couple of quick examples. On Rolls-Royce, if you ever got a lead, other than when you were face-to-face with somebody, you may as well throw it in the garbage, because if you got an internet lead, it was worthless, right? They would just be a complete waste. In a more of a mass-market product, let's say there's 6 channels of leads from different internet sources, events, PGA, whatever, TV advertising. They have different closing ratios. So one might be 5%, one might be 25%. So Mark's point that you can be fueling volume leads and going broke, trying to manage them and follow them up properly. So there are buying cycles. Some products people are researching 6 months out, and some people are researching 6 hours out from when they're going to buy something. So all these elements fit in, then you have to have the right analytics and the right process to follow up the types of leads that you're getting to. It is actually a very, very complex science in a way.
Big time.
The elements that Mark went through fit in to different channels of leads, and it's knowing how these solutions that he touched on quickly fit into the lead cycle and process and source, the channel from which they've come. Because typically the higher value, a house, a car, a boat, a plane, a Rolls Royce, whatever, the quality and source becomes much more personal then, and then you're almost back to personality types, whether you're raising hundreds of millions or whether you're trying to raise $1 on the corner stand with lemonade. All right, so the elements are critical, but it's the where they fit in to what process you have and what your analytics are to refine the process and those elements that Mark touched on. And when you get that aligned, then you're in business, so to speak. You're making productive money from it.
So it's about 15 years into Synergy, and all of a sudden, out of about 15, 18 years into Synergy, and all of a sudden I started applying my 3 degrees. And I'm like, that's strange. like, why am I applying my degrees now? Like, that's just weird. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, wait a minute, where'd the curriculum come from? It came from the school. How's the school decided? They decided based on largely the donors. Who are the donors? The donors are the big companies, often. And what do the big companies want? They want somebody who specializes in a specific field. They don't want to build an entrepreneur. So what they're doing is they're building specialist factory workers. And I'm like, oh, got it. So they didn't train to be an entrepreneur. They trained me in my college. But at certain levels, the things that I was taught in my finance degree, not so much management, not so much marketing, some in marketing, in the research stuff. So then I realized that a lot of training, a lot of courses, a lot of stuff, it's like putting a 10,000-pound cannon and you do it on, and this is why C-level people of big companies, when they try to start their own company, they die. Because they don't understand. You can't put a 10,000-pound, you can't put a 10,000-pound cannon on a speedboat. So they don't realize they're used to working for a big company that you have all this girth, all this supporting stuff around you, and you don't have it. Like, I'm not happy with the Leverage logo, but it's not slowing us down. But I'm not just going to let it be. I'm trying different things. But it's like, you know what? We'll go ahead. I mean, with a $12.5 million project, okay, I want that lever, but it's going to be, animated and all this kind of stuff. And so the analytic and C-level people often go out of business because they're analyzing the wrong things. They don't have time or money. They're thinking too much. They're analyzing too much. And the truth is that you'll never hear in college, at least I never heard it, is nobody knows if anything's going to work or not until they try it. And the analytic, what they tend to do, and these are the ones that are attracted to the big companies often, the analytic, when they make a right decision, they think that it's because of their analysis, but it's not. It was the right decision. The analysis, by and large, is there for ego, and if you make a mistake in a big company, you better have a lot of data to back up that mistake that you made. Otherwise, you're done. So there's a whole bunch of fat in a big company, but they have a lot of systems, and a lot of that analytic actually goes and produces massive amount of profit too. I mean, it's crazy. Jill, thoughts, questions you have?
Most of the questions that I had earlier today, you guys have answered through the conversation.
Cool. Elise, anything else you have?
No, I don't think I do.
So, like, I wish you all could see what I see. And what I see is that every business person in your life, every leader in your life, like everybody you know, would benefit so much from this course. And a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll wait until they get everything's just perfect, which is fine, I don't care, before they're starting to recommend it to other people, because they don't have a lot of confidence in the people around them. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, it just is what it is. So the value comes in the bumping and the bruising, I think. The deep value comes in the bumping and the bruising. You know, it's Lee saying, I don't get it. It's Lee's husband saying, I don't like it. I wouldn't buy it. Okay, cool. What do we need to do different? This isn't working. Like, what do we do here? So the people that, the people that are going to be at the core, they're going to gain the most. It'll transform their lives. And they'll make the most money. Because Legacy Partners knows that it has to have a handful of people in real estate. It has to have a handful of people in the mortgage. It has to have a handful of people in the car industry. It has to have a handful of people, CPAs, insurance. I mean, it has to have. And what Legacy Partners is going to do, like I told David, I said, what you want to accomplish is you want to be the face of the real estate for leverage all around the world. He's like, that is what I want. I mean, I listened to him for 3 minutes, and I'm like, oh, this is what he wants. Yeah, leverage will give that to him for sure. I said, what's strange, David, is that you could go ahead and go through this entire course and learn nothing. Like nothing. Like, it's a stupid course. It's absolutely terrible. Like, I've learned nothing from it. And you could actually apply leverage, and somebody else will go through the course and think it's the greatest course, think they learned everything and learned nothing. So you can think you've learned nothing and you've learned everything, or you can think you've learned everything and learned nothing. Like, I'm not interested in bestowing Tom or Peter's or my wisdom on any of you, honestly. I'm interested in all of you and everybody in your networks actually leveraging, because I know what it will do in changing people's lives. Anyone else have anything else? All right. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.